Sometimes you get home after a long day and you want a nice drink with minimal effort, or you want to be the host with the most minus any fuss. So I thought I'd bring together a few easy peasy 2-ingredient cocktails for when a beer just won't cut it. And stay tuned because I did come across a weird one that I haven't tried yet, so you can see my live reaction trying it for the first time. Let's start with a 70s classic, The Godfather. Yes, it is named for the film, and it's just a thing I can imagine the Corleones sipping on after a hard day of gangstering. It's basically a shortcut to an old-fashioned, no messing around with sugar and bitters necessary. Traditionally, it is made with scotch, but you can definitely substitute American whiskey or even brandy or rum if that's what you have to hand. And it's also traditionally equal parts, but that does lead to quite a sweet cocktail, and so I tend to go 3 to 1 and make the amaretto a little bit more of an accent. I'm not gonna lie, a little dash or two of bitters in here goes quite nicely as well, especially if you have something kind of nutty or cacao vibes. But that being said, this whole thing is 2-ingredient cocktails, so I'm not going to do that today. And just make sure that you're using a good quality amaretto, so nothing kind of too sweet and artificial. I'm using a local Australian one, which is actually made from bitter almonds. Interestingly, a lot of amarettos are actually made from like apricot pits. Not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. There's some very good examples of that style out there, but this one is got a really nice kind of deep, rich, nutty note to it. And they also use some strawberry gum, so it gives it a little floral edge, which I quite enjoy as well. Because we're trying to make this really, really easy, I'm not even going to kind of stir it and strain it. I'm just gonna go straight in the glass and give it a stir in there. And then, you know, the drink sort of evolves as you sip it, as it kind of dilutes, because, you know, scotch and amaretto are delicious anyway, so as long as they're nice and chilled in there, it's gonna be good from the first sip through to it being a little bit more diluted by the time you finish it. So we're gonna go in with 45 mils of scotch. A good quality blend definitely works in here. It's not gonna fight with the amaretto too much. I do like Johnny Walker because it's got a little smoky edge to it, which I think works well with the nuttiness. And then 15 mils of amaretto. Then just pack it with ice. Quick little stir. And then just a big orange wedge for garnish. And how easy is that? I mean, I was always gonna like it because I do really like amaretto and I really like scotch. But I think just together it is quite interesting. They give this real other sort of depth of flavor to each other. So yeah, that hint of smokiness from the whiskey, and then that really kind of lovely, decadent, rich nuttiness from the amaretto. It makes it feel like a very put together cocktail that you've actually kind of crafted. So the fact that you can throw it together this easily where other people have already done the hard work is definitely a win. It's kind of the ultimate nightcap. So the Cocchi soda used to be my drink of choice, and I kind of let it go out of fashion a bit, and I've recently rediscovered it. It's a really good lower alcohol option, which is so refreshing, so perfect for an afternoon tipple or as an arrival drink when you're hosting. I really like Cocchi Americano because it has a bit of a stronger bitterness than other aromatized wines, but you could absolutely use something like Lillet, really any vermouth, because the great thing about these wines in general is that they have so much botanical complexity that you can let them do the heavy lifting flavor-wise and just add soda with a healthy wedge of whatever citrus fruit you have hanging around, and maybe like a nice sprig of an aromatic herb as well. And it'll look like you've gone to so much effort when it was actually very easy. So for this one, we're gonna go 45 mils of Cocchi Americano. And then fill to about halfway with soda. It's essentially like a lighter version of a gin and tonic, but actually tastes, I guess, for me, a little bit more interesting than a lot of standard London dry gins. Then you're just gonna fill it with ice, sort of pop your orange wedge in there. We might go a little sprig of thyme as well, or whatever else you have growing in your garden or on your windowsill. And there we have a Cocchi soda. It's so light and refreshing, but still really flavorful. So you get such a big whack of citrus. Obviously having the herbs and the citrus in there as well just really help to highlight that in the actual Cocchi Americano itself. In winter, I do tend to switch to more like a sweet vermouth and soda, so it's pretty adaptable. And again, a good way to use up, because dry vermouth would work as well. So if you've got something sitting in your fridge that you only use for the occasional cocktail and you're worried that it will go off because vermouth doesn't last forever, then stick it in with some soda and you'll have a whole new world. This cocktail is named for a famous Italian general, and the two ingredients here, so Campari from the north of Italy and oranges that the south is famous for, symbolize the reunification of Italy that Garibaldi was instrumental in. And also the kind of reddy orange color is an ode to Garibaldi's followers, who are known as the red shirts for wearing red shirts. Now this is a great way to use up any peeled oranges that you have left over from twists, and you do want your orange juice to be nice and fluffy. Although it's not known who actually came up with this drink, Dante in New York really put it back on the map, and they use a really high-speed juicer to make sure that the texture is correct, because the fluffiness kind of lifts the whole drink and adds a little bit of delicacy to the bold Campari. So you can absolutely just squeeze it sort of with a regular elbow rather than, you know, an automated juicer, but then just make sure you strain it so there's no pulp in there, and give it a little whiz in a blender without ice just to whiz it up, or just a good hard shake in a shaker tin will do the same thing as well, and it will make all of your fluffy dreams come true. So let's get making. So we're gonna go 45 mils of Campari straight into my little suitably branded Campari glass here. And that's quite a nice size of highball. We obviously don't want this to be like a massively long drink with heaps of orange juice. Now, usually I always add the mixer and then the ice to help things incorporate, but I quite like the look of this being a little bit more layered and then letting people mix it themselves. So we're gonna go ice first. And then our lovely fluffy fresh orange juice. And you just want to balance a little orange wedge on the top there as well. And here we have the Garibaldi. It's really delicious. It's interesting. I feel like Campari is just one of those things that really does this sometimes, where even though it's such a bold flavor, when it kind of meets its perfect pairing, it just brings so much depth and complexity, and you wouldn't think that this drink takes roughly 30 seconds to throw together. I'm not necessarily advocating, you know, morning drinking, but to be honest, I feel like it will almost be hard to go back to regular orange juice with your breakfast once you've had one of these. So all of the drinks so far I can personally vouch for, but I was actually going to show you a Ferrari, which is a mixture of Fernet Branca and Campari that bartenders often like to shoot, and which has been done at Bomba once or twice. But we didn't actually have any Fernet here, but then I came across a recipe saying to shake up Branca Menta and coffee, and well, we do have some Branca Menta and an espresso machine, so I thought I'd better give it a go. It's essentially like a minty version of Fernet Branca. It is a little bit sweeter, but still very bitter. Being personally honest, it's one of those kind of things that I should get my bartender card revoked for, where I'm actually not a massive fan of either Fernet Branca or the Branca Menta, but I do like coffee. So let's see if something magic happens when we combine the two and I'm converted. I need to go make some espresso. So this is meant to be as easy as 30 mils of the Branca Menta, 30 mils of coffee, giving it a bit of a shake. Still smells very Branca Menta-y, I have to say. All right, here goes nothing. It tastes like coffee with Fernet Branca in it. And a little bit minty. I wouldn't honestly say that that's like changing my life in terms of being, you know, one of those ones that's sort of better than the sum of its parts, but I am sure that midway through a very long shift, this would absolutely do the job to give me a hit of caffeine and sugar and a little bit of booze and just a general refreshing, uplifting sort of mintiness to get me through to the finish line. So I very much understand why this was on a bartender's list of 2-ingredient cocktails. Branca Menta and coffee. So now you know. So what I love about all of these drinks is that they're so simple, but they do feel a little bit elevated compared to just sort of your usual G&T or vodka soda. So you still get that little bit of luxury feeling without too much effort. Please let me know your own favorite simple drinks in the comments. 2-ingredient cocktails. So now you know.